the C-Suite Edge. I'm your host, John Light. I'm also the CEO and founder of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today I'm joined by Elliot Kallen, who leads a group called Prosperity Financial Group. And as you may guess from the name, he's all about wealth management and doing better in life. Elliot, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John, for having me on.
No, happy to. I know we're talking a little bit about in pre-show, but I'm curious as we get rolling, if you could maybe drop a 90-second, I won't say infomercial, but give us a little bit of historical context for you and Prosperity Financial Group and how you got there.
Absolutely, and this is companies 3, 4, and 5 that I started. I think of myself as an entrepreneur. I was looking to get into financial business, back into it. I used to be with an old accountant. I don't look like an accountant, but I can be an accountant. And I wanted to get back into helping people find successful ways to retire. The biggest problem of retirement today is you don't really have a plan on what you're doing. And that's why the average senior watches 4 to 6 hours of TV every day of the week. Oprah, this show, that show, it doesn't really matter, the doctors. And so I wanted to come up with a way to help people find a way to retire successfully, which means find out what that means to them. Traveling, children, buying a home for their kids, helping, whatever the goals were. Most people don't have any retirement goals. You have goals in business today. You wake up every day with a goal. You have a goal in marriage. You have that. You might have a goal for your children. Hopefully it's not a bigger goal than they have for themselves. But you don't have a retirement goal of what I'm going to do while I'm retired. And that's why projects that used to take a week, used to take a day, take a week. Used to take an hour, take a day. And you hear from seniors all day long, I'm busier than ever. What are you doing? Same thing I've always done. I'm just busier than ever. That's what I wanted to change. I got involved with a charity after my son passed away in 2015, and we save people's lives. We heal with depression with the goal of saving lives. So I'm saving retirement lives for people, and I'm saving families from having a teen commit suicide. That's a pretty fulfilling life.
Man, it's a noble mission is what that is. I mean, don't you think that's... I've been very fortunate on this show. I've had some guests who are undertaking what I think are just noble causes and are kind of making that their purpose. You having that duality, I think, is pretty impressive, covering people, ultimately helping people live life, whether it's toward the end and they're ready for retirement, or if it's, hey, you haven't even started to bloom into life yet. I think there's a lot of good from that. So kudos. I got to ask, if I can, because I think we could go a lot of different directions. So I'm going to leave this in your court, Elliot. How do you look at the biggest problem you solve for people? I mean, what is that, and how do you go about dealing with it?
Well, if we're talking about retirement, I meet with people all day. Average age, 50 to 70 is my typical client. Net worth, 7 figures. You have more or less on both those things. Right? But the problem they have with retirement is most people think, like my mother used to think, which is if you just have $1 million or $2 million, you'll have enough money to retire. My mother told me when I was in my 20s that if you put $2,000 into an IRA when they first came out, and it grows at 8%, and you keep it for 40 years and add to it $2,000 a year, you'll have $1 million when you retire, and you'll never need another penny the rest of your life. Of course, in 2025, I'm in California, you're in Texas. $1 million will probably not go very far in retirement, no matter where you are in the United States. So maybe you need $3 million today. And so it's not just, I'll put $6,000 away every year. It's not that. And then the other part, the biggest part we have is when people retire, why do they get so sick? And part of that, obviously, is health reasons. But part of that is I've got time and I've got boredom now on my hands. And I don't have a game plan. Purpose, John, gives you health, life, and happiness. It always does. And in retirement, you lose all 3 of those things.
Yeah.
You lose your purpose. You're kind of rudderless a lot of times, right? You don't have a goal when you wake up. Maybe the goal today is I'm going to do the hedges. That's your goal. So we want to give that back to them. We want to say, okay, what can you do to help your grandchildren out? Where are places that you want to travel? Travel is the most popular retirement goal of anybody we work with. And so we talk about what does that mean? What does travel mean to you? So if my daughter used to live in Dallas, does travel mean going to Dallas 3 times a year? Okay, I'm going to take that out of my travel goal, and I'm going to call that a grandchild goal, maybe a great-grandchild goal, right? Travel means I want to go to someplace I haven't been or someplace I love. Maybe I want to go to New York twice a year because I'm from that area. Maybe I want to go to London, France, and Tokyo. What does that mean? What does that look like? Do I travel economy plus? Do I travel first class so I can really do it? What does it mean when I get there? Do I want to do a lot of tours, or am I going to sit in a Marriott? That's what we work with people on. And then you've got occasionally you've got some people that are in good health and they want to golf. So let's talk about what a golf retirement looks like. And do you want to go to Ireland, or you just want to join a country club and be an active member of this club? Or are you going to be passive? And are you going to wait for life to happen to you? And I'm a big fan, as you can tell from my personality. Nobody calls me a passive person.
Wouldn't have guessed it.
So passivity to me is a plan of inaction. I don't like that for my clients. I work hard to make them be much more active than that.
You know, it's an interesting thing, and you know, guests or people who listen, they can't hear our pre-show and post-show conversations because we don't record them. But when a person retires, part of the dilemma, I think, is you lose a big chunk of your identity. You're walking away from, hey, I've been a chemist, or I've been an engineer, or I've been a software person, or I've been, whatever it is, for however many years. Maybe it's decades, maybe it's something briefer or more brief, but you're setting that aside, and there's definitely a gap or a void to fill. And it's interesting to me as I'm listening, it almost sounds like just as much as you're kind of the wealth advisor, you're also the life advisor in a sense of, okay, we see this coming. We know at some point you're going to retire, and that's when all these investment, this plan, that's when this comes into play. But let's also prepare for the other side of this, which isn't just having money to live on, it's having money to live on and actually, make life, give it some purpose or some goal. So how do you, would you say probably half of these conversations is really around the psychology and digging into that sort of thing with your clients?
John, that's a great point you just made, but it's probably more than half. I'm not a certified life coach. That I think that is a certificate out there, but I definitely am a life coach. And when you love people, which I obviously I do, I really like people in lots of ways. I find people fascinating, interesting. I could disagree with you 100% politically with you, not that I do necessarily, but I could, and find you fascinating and somebody I want to have a beer with. Now, of course, we live in a polarized world. That doesn't always work.
Right.
But when you love people, you enjoy the differences, not just the similarities between you. And so when I talk to people, I want to find out what makes them tick, what makes them click, what makes them grind, what makes them wake up in the morning, the raison d'etre, the reason for living in there. And that's what we talk about. I just got off the phone with a woman. She's a few years from retirement. She needs a little bit more in her savings account. And we talked about the emotional job that she needs to find, emotionally rewarding job she needs to find, because the last few of them have been draining on her psyche. And she's a six-figure executive. She's exactly your target market, the C-suite executive in there. But some of them, as you know, jobs are take a toll on you. And some of them are rewarding, depending on the job and your boss and the team you work with. That's important. We talk about that. And then we talk about, okay, John, you're a podcaster. When you can't do that anymore, this is one of those things that you can do for a long time, unless you lose your voice. But if you couldn't do that, what would you do? And we spend time talking about that. I find out that you like horses or you like ranching. Okay, well, how important is that to you that you like horses and ranching? Let's talk about how much time are you committing to do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, helping them sort out, what am I going to do with this money? Because it just can't be paying the bills. I'm very fortunate. I've got a set of in-laws right now who they've retired recently, and they're looking to sell their property in Nevada, but they've already got their plan, and they're probably going to spend the next 3 to 5 years RVing. They just came back from 2.5, 3 months up in Alaska. They dropped it's a big gooseneck RV. They put it on the back of the truck, and away they go. And they love it, and they keep up with people and all this, and often they have traveling companions, other retired couples who join them. But they look forward to the trips, and they've planned these trips out, and they have purpose in what they're doing. And of course, there's going to be a trip over the holidays. They're going to come here and see the grandkids and park their RV outside of the house, and man, that'll be really entertaining, I think. I don't know
if they were sitting in front of me, John, I would tell them they're on a perfect track, the right track. I would just add one thing to their plan.
Yeah.
And that is, would you like to be the grandparents that introduce the national parks to your grandchildren in your RV? And
See,
then once a year, you do a national park trip with grandchildren.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We've done a little bit of that, really from my wife's side, because you and I were talking. We talked about losing identity and going through this process to regain it. You're aware I was a cancer widow, and so was my wife. And one of the things she did, the 3 kids from her and her late husband, is after he passed, COVID was going full bore. But they went and they started going to national parks. They went to Yellowstone, they went to Yosemite, they went to here and to there, and just got out and did things. But their RV was poquito. The grandparents' RV is plush.
You need enough space. My big thing is, and when I look at an RV, if something I want to own is, what's the size of that bathroom and how much space is between the other bedroom and us between that bathroom? I don't want my bathroom habits to become public information.
Amen to that. I'm gonna upvote that. That's like when we were renovating the house we're in now, and in the house I had before, somebody asked me, "What's the one feature you can't live without?" And I said, "Well, besides air conditioning in Texas," and they go, "Yeah," and I said, "A water closet. I want to be able to shut a door and be cut off from the world."
Yeah, leave me alone. I need some space.
Well, now that I have 6 kids, brother, I need space sometimes. Just to breathe. Let me ask this: when you talk to one of your clients, and I think this is important from the perspective of there's such a vast array of possibilities for investment. A lot of people lean into indexes and they lean into the stock market. Some people lean into alternative investments and real estate and whatnot. I'm really curious, and I don't want you to give away the farm or anything of that nature, but your typical client being between 50 and 70, is there some point in there wherein it makes more sense to lean one way or another in the direction you want to take them from an investment perspective?
So I build portfolios. That's what I love to do. I've got 7 portfolios that I work with, and I can mix and match them in different ways on that. It really depends, John, on you. So, traditionally people said when you get older, you should be more conservative. When you're younger, you should be more aggressive. I don't buy into that. I think your risk tolerance needs to be in a mirror image of or a glass image of your actual psyche. So based on your age and how you feel and the information I'm going to gather from you, you're going to be somebody that takes more risk, less risk adverse, risk tolerant. Based on those answers, I'm either going to go more in the market, more with alternatives, more in hedging, more with options, or not. I'm going to be all income based on the other side of that. So I've got to do what's right for the client, not what's right for their age, and find out what fits them. There are some clients I have that have very, very little in the stock market because they can't sleep at night when it goes down. It goes down $1 and they're ready to jump off a bridge. I've got other people that have said, hey, if you make me 10, 15, 20% a year, I'm not going to bug you at all. Just do do your thing. Do your magic, Elliot. And then for those people, they're on the other side of the spectrum, and they're saying, I need more risk. But you lose clients in our business from causing heart attacks with their portfolio. So heart attacks, down 30%, you just lose clients. They're scared. They go to banks and they buy CDs.
Right.
That's what you don't want to happen. So we rarely lose clients because you underperform. You lose clients because you blow up. So don't blow up.
Interesting. I like the fact, though, that you're looking at the individual and their needs and their tolerances. Because I think you're right. We have a similar process we go through when we're talking to a candidate about an opportunity. We try to get into their shoes a little bit and understand what their real priorities are in their career, because not everybody wants to be super aggressive. Not everybody wants to be passive. Not everyone wants to stay on the same career track or in the same context. And it's amazing to me, fascinating, how much that can shift, not just from a time in your life, but just from person to person. I've seen people who are pretty staid, I guess you could say, earlier in their career who just exploded, and I've seen people who have exploded and ran into a brick wall and had almost set back to zero. And but it's always a reflection on the choices a person's making in that moment, in that context, that they think is in their own best interest.
We're all unique creatures, John. And so, I tend to be fairly aggressive as a person in my portfolio. My wife is much more conservative. She had a job with Johnson & Johnson for 20 plus years. She likes the corporate world. She would never consider herself an entrepreneur or much of a risk taker. Never traveled very much, just went to see family when she was married in her first marriage. I'm the exact opposite. I traveled all around the world. I love taking a risk. I've had, this, like I said, this is the 5th business I started, and now I'm in the process of starting number 6. They all haven't worked out great. I've gotten my nose bloodied a number of times. Sometimes I feel like Rocky, and I walk back to the corner after round 1 of his first fight and said, he broke my nose. And yeah, he broke your nose. What are you going to do? Quit or going to keep going?
I thought you were going to say, cut me, Mick, cut me.
Cut me, Mick is a good one, too. I don't want to do it. Cut me.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think you'd be an entertaining conversation for anyone who wants to learn more. I mean, you obviously bring a lot of depth to the table and experience, and I like the fact that you talk about things from a very practical perspective, and a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people in your industry space try to pigeonhole people into groups instead of treating people as they are, which are a group of individuals. Deal with the individual, deal with the person. Kind of a riff on you, if you will, on Adam Smith's invisible hand in the market. That's I think that's admirable. I think it's important. So let me ask you this: if someone wants to learn more about how you go about things, Elliot, what's the best way for folks to find you and get in touch?
Well, let me give you my email is Elliot, ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. The website is obviously prosperityfinancialgroup.com. And my phone number to my desk, 925-314-8503. I've got a whole team of people that work here with me. I've got another company I own with 55 advisors. We're a player in the marketplace, and I only deal with certain people, but I've got a whole team of people that deal with everybody else. So if you're somebody that wants their money to be taken seriously and taken uniquely and individually, then I love you, because that's what I do.
Taking the money seriously, taking the individual seriously, man. I think it's a great combination. I really appreciate you joining me today, Elliot.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.